Avenue. Happy to bring you into our first ever Fireside chat. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be kind of a new thing for us, and it's something that's been in some form or another pitched to me over the past year. People want me to do a Q&A, that kind of a thing, a mailbag, whatever. So we're going to roll with it. We're going to go, see how this goes. And I appreciate you being with us for this very first and special episode of Fireside Chat. First, I want to say that tonight we are brought to you by CaliTickets.com, Cali Tickets, C-A-L-I Tickets.com. Look, I bitch more than anybody about the StubHub stuff, like the fees that you get at the end. It's a joke. It's it's a sledgehammer. I don't know why they're not just preloaded in, because the price will jump up so much at the end when you're checking out. Cali Tickets won't do that to you. Incredible value and no hidden surprises at the end. So when you're sitting there at the page, you're going to see those tickets at a certain price. That's the price you're getting them for. CaliTickets.com. Appreciate the support from them. CaliTickets.com. Okay, here we go. So this was sort of done in a formal, informal way. So it's a combination of just the course of our natural existence in this media space. We get a lot of questions, and I get a lot of things sent to me. People do our website form, ask us all sorts of crazy things, mostly about our Jimmy Hoff episode. We get that like maybe 5 times a week still, even 2 years later. So we had a collection of questions that I thought for this first one that I would sort of pull from the ones that came organically. And at the buzzer, I threw out the net and said, hey, anyone who wants to jump in. We picked some, not all of them. So appreciate anyone that wrote in. If you are read tonight, you're going to get a little special surprise, a little prize from Spiro Avenue. A couple Tiger tickets in there for some people. A couple things that are a lot more impressive, like Spiro Avenue pens. So if you are one of the lucky winners, we'll be in touch. Anyway, let's get it started. Look, I wanted to get this kind of out of the way, because this is the thing that, I mean, even after throwing this hook in the water, we were immediately contacted by, 7, 8, 9 people that asked us about the Twitter Spaces with Ant Wright that took place today. I didn't know anything about it like beforehand. I got just a text from Ant inviting me into this thing. I didn't even know what I was going in there for or who was in there. I had no idea, but I don't say no to Ant. And I showed up. It was interesting. So the question that we're asked, and this, we got this from like 8 or 9 people, seriously, but we'll give it to you, Adam R. So we'll be in touch with you because you were first. Why were you so mad at EJ Holland in the Ant Twitter Spaces? So for context, and that's why we're running a little bit late here tonight, I want to play a little bit of a segment in a couple different splices. I want to get a little bit of him and a little bit of me. But the backstory before we do that is, and frankly, I can't even give you the full backstory because I haven't even gone back and looked at everything. But the backstory, from my understanding and the stuff that I saw, which should not be considered the complete record because I haven't looked at it, but all I saw was in EJ Holland tweet talking about some kid committing to Michigan that had been a target of Michigan State. And he said, little brother is rendered irrelevant on the recruiting trail again by Michigan or something to that effect. And obviously, when you troll, the opposing side is going to come out. And that was sort of the predictable outcome. And the normal banter started. But what I saw that I took umbrage with, and were the only two things, honestly, it wasn't the tweet. It was sort of the fallout and stuff that came out after, where EJ Holland said that my friend Justin Rose, a very successful in his career as a broadcaster at Channel 7, 4-time Emmy winner, just a great guy, was called, was it unemployed, said that he has no job, that he was a failed TV reporter, all this nonsense. And it's because he had said that EJ's characterization of this kid going to Michigan instead of Michigan State was buffoonery, or he's a buffoon, or whatever it was. So I took issue with that because Justin Rose voluntarily left his position at Channel 7. And to insinuate that he's A, unemployed, and B, failed when he's wildly successful is absurd. And that was sort of my initial and most pressing issue on why I jumped in. I didn't care about the little brother stuff. The little brother thing, that's awesome. Like, please keep rolling with that. Like, I promise you, I might be triggered by some stuff that I embrace. So I guarantee you it wasn't that. But I don't deny being triggered about my friend being lied about. And then you get Justin Thin getting dragged in here, and he's called out for no reason by this EJ Holland thread of responses. So that's sort of the backdrop as far as I know. I don't know what else was out there, what else was said. I didn't see it. But that is like the entire context from my perspective and why I launched into kind of what I did in these clips and throughout that whole thing, which is still available, and anyone can go check out Ant Right. Ben, let's roll that, and then we'll get to the answer.
I don't even know who you are. I didn't know who Justin Rose was yesterday when he mentioned me. I don't go out and seek Michigan State beat reporters to find and tag in my stories. If you're offended that I'm calling Michigan State little brother, or I'm saying Mel Tucker is using gimmicks or things of that nature, none of that is personally attacking you. Is it being inflammatory? Sure, I suppose.
Let's look at what I responded to. I responded not to the little brother stuff or talking about gimmicks or anything. I responded to you lying about Justin Rose's job situation.
That's what fine. If you're defending your friend, cool. If you're not responding to me, that's fine. But I'm not saying.
So take it up with those people then. I'm not going to sit here and like
right, but you
stuff I don't even know about from somebody else.
Got into it, right? You brought yourself into it. Yeah, you're right. I should take care of it with those people. So why are you jumping in, having to have your friends back? Let them handle it then.
Well, you do seem like the kind of guy that wouldn't have your friends back, but believe it or not, in most circles, that's considered like a positive thing.
And I was solely responding to Justin Rose. You got brought into it because you brought yourself into it. I'm saying Justin Rose tagged me. I didn't go after him. I don't know who he is.
Okay, just because he tagged you, is that fair game? Is it a good excuse?
Yeah, it's fair game. If you're tagging me and personally attacking me, is that not fair game for me to respond to you?
So if somebody attacks me, I can just lie about him? Like that's what
I don't know if I'm lying or not, man.
Okay, so you're saying
I looked at his resume. He's no longer employed. That's not my fault.
Okay, so you're saying something about him and his livelihood that you have no idea if you're not lying, you're just throwing shit out there that you have no clue. At best, that's the best case scenario here for you. You playing this whole babe in the woods. Oh, I'm just out here doing my job. People are coming after me. I don't tag them. Like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to deliberately inflame and provoke and then sit here and say, oh, hands up. I didn't do anything. Like, you know what you're doing. No one buys it. No one's falling for it, including the Michigan fan base, by the way. They're rolling their eyes so hard they've given themselves 6 concussions since this conversation started listening to you. So, yeah, that was a thing. And the funny thing is, that's like a 7% sampling of the entire thing. So we tried to capture like a little bit of both sides, and I think that was fair. And I mean, getting back to the question, why was I fired up today? And I talked about it a little bit throughout the course of that. I don't know. I think I was on for 20 minutes or so. Here's the thing. It's not unique or some concept that EJ Holland came up with. It's one that he's mastered. It's one that he's good at. I would say master level at. But it's not a unique to EJ practice to follow a very specific sequence in a playbook. And it always starts with some variation of the same thing. I'm going to say something inflammatory or insulting, belittling, degrading, take your pick. I'm going to sit, step 2, and wait for the inevitable response because that's what's going to happen 100 times out of 100. And it's the least surprising, most predictable thing ever that it's going to occur. So we'll wait for that to drum up. Step 3, I'm going to sit there, look at all the responses, and watch the mob go crazy. Step 4, ask them why they care so much. Ask them why they're not taking this college football thing a little less seriously. And it's like, this is not, again, unique to him. He's great at it, but it's not unique to EJ. So you want to know why that bothers me. That is a sort of approach to human engagement that I just find appalling in any context. And I've known people that acted that way, where you're poking, you're prodding, you're trying to get a response. You get it, and then you're asking them, hey, why are you so mad, bro? Like, the second you get into why you so mad, bro, just grab the white flag and wave it, because you got nothing. That is the definition of a defense mechanism. You're not arguing anything on the merits. You're not defending why you're characterizing things a certain way. And this is just one of many examples where you're a recruiting reporter reporting on a recruit making, I think it was a commitment. I don't know. I hate this stuff, to be honest. I'm more of a downstream guy, like when they're on the field and stuff. But like, you're making an announcement within your purview. What does Michigan State have to do with anything in terms of the little brother? I get that Michigan State was on the list, but like, what does like the rivalry banter really have to do with anything? It's like, just say, big win over in-state rival Michigan State on the recruiting trail. There's only one reason to throw like the little brother thing in there, and it's to be inflammatory. So like that's not even what bothered me, but it's the like shocked, feigned, appalled response when, why are these people upset with me? So, I'm actually one of the people that am not upset about that. I was upset about what happened after, but what I find ridiculous and disingenuous to a Hall of Fame degree is this notion that EJ is surprised or confused, perplexed, befuddled in any way by the response. The response is the whole point of what he's doing, and he knows what he's doing. I wouldn't call EJ, like, he's not going to be splitting the atom anytime soon. I wouldn't call him like one of the 25 smartest people I've ever talked to. But he's not in the bottom 25 either. I mean, he's smart enough to know what he's doing. And like, honestly, good for him. Like, he's obviously good at it. I can think of about a million things I'd rather be good at than this paint by number, cheap ass, lame, lazy ass engagement bait shit. So that's just me. I think that's most people of any sort of honest persuasion. But in the context of someone who has chosen this path and has decided to go about things this way, he's great at it. And I just think that's the lamest thing to get into this whole. But like, can you imagine? This guy's a reporter, a credentialed reporter, and his exact quote, which I'm sure we'll have fun with in the future, I had fun with it now, was, I don't know if I was lying or not. That was his response to me calling him out for, whether you call it lying or stating a mistruth or talking out of your ass. I don't care like what box you put it in. His response to that wasn't, oh, bullshit, or, oh, I must have been mistaken. I don't know if I was lying or not. I don't know who he is. I don't know about him. Then why are you talking about him? You can't insult the guy on a personal level, like with personal details about him. Like, I'm not talking about what boxers he wears, but like his job and like how that job went and how his career's going. And then when someone says, hey, asshole, here's a slideshow of the guy holding up little shiny trophies saying he's the best at what he does. And here's anybody that knows him coming out with the backstory saying, no, Channel 7 wanted to extend him at an increased salary. And they tried to sit him down and talk about him not being there. They wanted him back. And your response to these clarifications is, oh, if I was lying or not, he called me a buffoon. It's an overused term, but you're unserious as a reporter. Because anybody, you don't even need to be a reporter. Reporters are supposedly held to a higher standard. You could fool me, EJ. Any person of common decency, if they have found to have falsely accused somebody of anything or falsely labeled somebody or said something that was flagrantly untrue, and I'm sorry, calling somebody unemployed and a failure in their profession of choice is not some minor thing. Like, anybody of any good conscience or soul or sense of integrity at all, like even a little bit, when confronted with their own error in that context, would immediately retract, apologize, and my bad. That came like way at the end in passive aggressive. I don't even know if he meant it a little bit fashion. So it's like that's my issue, is like this whole game that some people play, and again, not exclusive to EJ, where I'm going to deliberately do something. I'm going to just go kick over the hornet's nest. I'm going to whack it down to the ground. And then when they come flying at me, oh, what are you doing? Well, I didn't do nothing. I'm just out here trying to have a good time. Like, go listen to the last 2 minutes of that Spaces. I'm doing something fun with it on an edit because I'm not denying myself that pleasure. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. The guy says the word fun, I think like 37 times. I'm sorry, you're trying to have fun. Yeah, the little brother thing, I'm not attacking you personally. Like, you know what you're doing. And the other thing is the guy says, oh, I didn't say anything. I didn't attack anybody personally. Like, I only responded to people that are coming at me. Poor Justin Thind was doing his day job actually splitting the atom and, like building the next atom bomb. Whatever he does, I don't know, he's a brilliant engineer. And he just sit there at his job, he didn't even know this stuff was going on. And he's catching strays, as the kids say, from EJ. So, like, I'm fine. You want to play the heel, that's fine. I like heels. I mean, Andy Kaufman's one. I don't call him a comedian. I mean, performance artist, whatever you want to call Andy Kaufman. Like, I mean, I'm down with the heel. Ric Flair was awesome. But you can't be the heel and the babyface. You can't. I just think of, like, peak. I mean, wrestling fans, you'll get it. But even if not, like, just imagine Ric Flair, the heel wrestler, coming out. And he's telling them he's in Boston. He's in the Boston Garden in the 80s. And he comes out and he's telling them everyone from Boston stinks and they don't take showers and the Red Sox suck and Buckner's a choke artist, all that shit. And they boo him. And then Ric Flair says, oh, what are you talking? What are you doing? What did I do? Like, that's not how it works. So, like, at least stay in character, man. Like, I mean, it's a fake ass, disingenuous, paint by number, like, cousin of Skip Bayless playbook. But at least Skip doesn't jump in and out of character like you, man. Like you're disingenuous like twice in two different ways back to back, and you're like hat on, hat off. In the same paragraph, if this were transcribed of this Spaces, like within the same little block, this guy said that he doesn't insult anybody. I haven't attacked you guys personally, and then he called us clowns. I was just told that saying that his little brother caption was an act of buffoonery. That was some personal attack. That was some terrible thing that we're going to invoke the guy's career falsely. But I haven't attacked you guys. I haven't said anything at all. Called us clowns, which I don't care that he called us clowns. It's like, I said worse to him, but I'm not the one acting all aggrieved on some Babe in the Woods routine. So that's why I took issue with that. And, people say, oh, he's so sensitive about the little brother thing. No, I am sensitive, admittedly. Guilty as charged. You can indict me right now. I am sensitive when my friends are lied about by someone with a relatively big following. So I'm not insulted by you saying, oh my God, look at how he reacts when his good friend is lied about. It's like, yeah. If that's what you got to say, if that's your big win, you can have it. Because I have no regrets about defending my friends. And you know what? It's not blind loyalty. And there's another point where he says, I get it. You're defending your friend. I get it. How about like some loyalty to the truth here? I could have never met Justin Rose in my life or even met him and not liked him and still have some semblance of a loyalty to like what's a fact. I don't get why like this is characterized because this is and we'll finish here with this one. I tell the guy, which he was already aware of, but I give it in further detail and remind him that what he said was objectively false about Justin Rose. Like he's not like everything was wrong. he spelled the guy's name right. Everything else was wrong. I tell him this. I clarify. I lay it out with facts, objective facts. His response to that, no retraction, nothing, no apology, no. It said, good for you. You defended your friend. I mean, that's the takeaway. I would have felt exactly the same way, but just a little bit less personally invested if I had never met Justin Rose or didn't even like him. So, yeah, you want to say Sparty's sensitive? At least this one is, sure. Yeah, you flagrantly violate any sense of integrity and you attack friends of mine or really anybody that doesn't deserve it, at least in that fashion. I mean, who deserves to be lied about? Like, I can't believe this is that polarizing, to be honest. The Michigan State component, sure. That polarity is never surprising. But like, if you're one of these, to be fair, I'm not going to attack Michigan. I give you guys a lot of credit because I got bombarded with Michigan fans messaging me afterward. It just, he doesn't represent us. I asked a few of them if I could share their feelings. I wish they had given me the go-ahead. Maybe we'll just blot their names out. But like, there are a good deal of Michigan fans that saw through this. But if you're one of those Michigan fans that are like going with this whole, like EJ cooked, like he owned those pansies. If you listened, you know that somebody was lied about. they were objectively slandered by any sort of civil definition. And your response is like, oh, Sparty tears. I just like, at some point, like, when are you more of a human and not just like a member of this rivalry? And that's why I care. You had the whole routine of I'm going to inflame and then step back and put my hands up and act aggrieved or act confused or befuddled. It's so disingenuous. And if you are going to do that, which he's done forever, and I haven't jumped on some spaces or really lit him up to any large degree, the reason it really bothered me this time, it wasn't little brother. I don't care. I was on there for a half an hour. I didn't even mention it except to say that he knows what he's doing to other people. I didn't care. I didn't mention that once in my rant or whatever you want to call it in that conversation. You're a reporter. You can't say shit that's just wrong. And if you do, you got to own that. And don't say, oh, good for you, little buddy, for sticking up for your friend. And I don't even know who you are. What a piece of work. So that will be by far the longest answer, I'm guessing, of tonight. But that's what most of you were asking about. I wasn't that surprised. EJ, I guess I didn't catch the end of it because I was on a phone call. I heard I guess he said he's got like 4 years left in this thing or something, in this gig in recruiting. Counting down the days for that one, Jews. I'm not in the beat, but man, like every time this guy comes in my ether, it's some kind of a catastrophe for him. And it's just the secondhand embarrassment I feel bad. I feel bad for him to a degree, and have for a while. But when it gets into this area of just lying about people, I can't give you the benefit of the doubt when you're corrected and you don't care. Like, if you're correct, you make a mistake, whatever. You're heated, you say something dumb, whatever. Once it's clarified and you double down and you're playing these games, yeah, that's not good. So that's why. So let's move on, Ben. This is going to be a very hard pivot to something a little bit lighter. So I can't really give a great answer to this. What are 3 reasons the hype for MSU basketball is overblown and 3 reasons it's valid? I'm not going to sit here under the gun that we were, the timeline and trying to get this out and make sure I make 3 great arguments on each side. Well, I'll talk about the issue generally, though. And we appreciate you, Keith Johnson, for sending that in at the buzzer. The reason to be, I would say, apprehensive is, without the data in front of me, but just anecdotally and what my observation is, when Michigan State basketball has been really hyped coming in, we're usually at least somewhat disappointed. Doesn't mean they are bad. They're never bad with Tom Izzo. He's in the tournament every year. But like, we're usually at least a little bit disappointed, it seems like. Couple exceptions, but the general perception is when everyone's pumping up Michigan State, they're not quite as good. And when Michigan State's counted out, they tend to quote unquote overachieve. I mean, whatever. So that's sort of the big reason to be a little bit concerned, is there is a history of this program in certain years that we felt really good being kind of frustrating. And people forget, like, the 2020, Cassius' senior year, that team drove us nuts and people were pulling their hair out. I know I was one of them. And that was a team that was like quickly landing in that like disappointing basket. Not bad. They were never at any point bad. They were good, but not as good as we thought. And then, it was a month ago. I mean, they were, I think, 8-1 or something like. I mean, they were just playing really well. They had a comeback against Penn State, and Cassius was acting like a maniac senior that he had never sort of acted like before in terms of having a little Mateen Cleave. So I don't know. I think that's like the fear, and that's but that's not really based on anything. That's just like kind of a bad juju argument. You can say there's going to be a lot of reliance on freshmen, but we don't even know that. Like, I've heard that complaint, or that concern, I should say, with the freshman class coming in that is quite heralded. But the team has so many seniors and juniors. I don't know how anybody in that sort of back half of the rotation is going to get consistent minutes. It's the most wonderful problem like ever. But I do have like some questions about the lineup. And if you want to talk about problems of luxury, how do they jumble that stuff? Again, good problem to have, but it is still kind of, if you don't want to call it a problem, it's certainly something you have to figure out, because the bottom line is with that roster, if 2 of the freshmen of the 4 that coming in are what we think they can be even in year 1, there's not someone's not going to be playing enough. And probably maybe even 2 or 3 people are not going to be playing enough. But that's where I think you have to keep your eye on, and I think that rotation could evolve. So the reason to have some skepticism is lack of clarity. That's a stretch. But, if you're making me make the argument aside from just, they tend to let us down a little bit when they're hyped up, that's the argument, is there's a lot of question marks like in the back half of the rotation. And has that big man problem been solved? Because that was the issue last year. And you don't have any big stud center coming in. I mean, you don't have like a Dickinson style guy coming in. So that's kind of where my concerns lie, is sort of the uncertainty with the rotation, and will they get that established in time where they can have enough reps together and be a good cohesive unit come March. And again, the big man thing not being resolved. Like, the reason they can do it, you got to, how much time you got? There's that I could rattle off 20 reasons. I mean, for one, you got a Hall of Fame coach. He's one of the best 10 coaches ever. So that's always along for the ride as long as he's here. That's a big one. You got leadership in senior form and a team that loves each other. I mean, like really, really loves each other. I've had half the team in my studio at this point. Like, those guys, man, like they got each other's backs. They take things personally that they see, like you guys say out there. And I'm sure I've crossed the line. I'm sure if they saw any of my Foster Lawyer stuff, they didn't like that. So, that's you have a cohesive senior team with a lot of talent, Hall of Fame coach. They're going to do their normal thing where they are bad for 3 games in February. You can just pencil that in or Sharpie it in now. But there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. And, I think the good far outweighs any negatives. So I would have rather given you like 7-2 than, 4-3 or 3-3 or any type of combination. So let's move on. This is from Cameron, another late sender here. The MLB draft is Scott Harris's next big test. Do you agree he shouldn't overthink things and he should just take whichever of Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, or Wyatt Langford are available? So, short answer, I mean, this will be pretty quick. Yeah, I agree with what I think your question is insinuating you want to have happen, Cameron. I don't want to be, I'm done with the smartest person in the room thing. I'm just over that. Like, in this town generally, not just with the Tigers, but, I mean, how many times was Bob Quinn the smartest guy in the room? Giovanni Tavai, Tease Tabor, Ebron for Mayhew before him. Like, how many times in this town have we seen, like, everybody's, including us, like, laughing at us? And the GM has to smugly walk up there with his best E.J. Holland face on and tell us that, our scouts, we know what we got here. We like what we got. We would have traded up for him if we thought someone wanted. Like, it's just, we're never wrong. Like, the fans are almost never wrong with this outsmart the room stuff. I'm sure it's happened. But typically when everybody's rolling their eyes, the one exception was Sider, and everybody for the Red Wings, everybody trusted Yzerman anyway. So that's sort of like where I land on this Tigers thing. Is you have what appears to be like kind of 3 and then a drop off. There's some variation in the mock drafts of kind of who goes where, but it's for the most part like pretty solid. Dylan Cruz will almost certainly not be there. I think it's probably going to be the 1-2 LSU punch, and I think you're going to be looking at Florida outfielder Wyatt Langford, and I think that's what they should do. And I think that's what they'll do. I mean, the next sort of guy's a high school guy. I mean, I'm done with that. We're gonna be sitting here 2030 waiting for this shit. How's Jackson Job's back feeling? Anyway, let's move on. I agree with you though, all the way. If one of those LSU guys falls somehow, just take them. Just keep it simple. This will be easy. I don't want to hear any of this underslot shit so I can get a better player at pick 42. Okay. Oh, God. I should have saved this one for a different one. What is your problem with Rico Beard? I can't really say like it's some deeply personal thing with Rico. Anything like kind of, if there is personal, really sort of came downstream of what I was already doing that made people ask that question, which is just highlighting some of these flubs that he's had. So I can't deny that I have a little like animosity about how he's handled this stuff. Like instead of trying to like prepare a little better, instead of trying to, not embarrass myself on my show, I'm going to try to get Justin Spiro's Twitter account taken down. Like, so that, like from that point on, there's like a personal element, but that doesn't really explain anything because there were so many, like the pattern really hasn't changed from upstream of that occurring. So I can't really attribute it to that. It really was not personal at all and still really isn't in practice with how it's carried out. People certainly know that that's, if you follow my account, it's referring to the deluge, some would say, of clips that we share of Rico, flubbing stuff. And I mean, it's me. It's only me. I get why people view it a certain way. I understand that. And I think it's probably 4-1, 5-1, 80, 85% somewhere in there of people that are like, oh my God, thank God we can't stand these crazy remarks he's made. It boils down to this. I'm a huge Mike Valenti fan. I was probably like patient zero in the whole like Mike Valenti experiment. The guy got hired for like 10 cents out of college, right out of Michigan State. 1270 was like drowning. They were a distant second out of two, behind 1130 at the time. I was in high school. That's how far back we're going here. And I was like the one guy that liked him in my high school, or at least in my class. Like, so I love Valenti and loved him then, love him now. So people say, the Rico thing, like, why do you listen then if he's so bad? I ain't there for Rico. I'm not. So, without going through the whole history of Valenti, obviously here with Foster in town for years and years. Foster, tragically had his health issues with his stroke and tried to come back, and it just wasn't viable for him. It's just like a really sad human story. So he leaves, and I think it was about 2 years, 3 years. They were doing like the Sully Valenti thing, with Hatchet jumping in and Roberto jumping in, and that was at least a few years there. And then there was a lot of speculation that like, is there going to be a co-host ever? And then the speculation picked up that Valenti wanted to have a co-host, and then the announcement comes, and I had heard about it just beforehand that Rico Beard is taking the seat. For context, Mike Valenti was and has been the number one show for many, many years in this town, in this, genre. And has been, I mean, for what, yes, the ratings are beautiful, but ratings aside, it's just the most profitable show of its kind for its network. They sell more money in ads. Like, so, that's what really matters. Because that's what, and, the ratings reflect that too, but like the ratings, who even really cares? It's what your commercial leverage. And Valenti has a ton of that. And when you have that chair open and you're going to look for that open seat to be filled, and you're already the number one show, and you're running the show, if you're Mike Valenti, like you're driving the bus, you're doing most of the talking no matter who sits across from you. I think if you're tapped to fill that seat, you owe a certain debt of not even like gratitude, but just you owe it to the audience, you owe it to Valenti to be on the ball and be prepared. And he's not. And it's not out of like a personal petty resentment. I want the show to be better. And the show is not nearly as good if one of the hosts is unprepared. That's it. So anything like personal came after, I don't know for a fact he was involved, but I was told by two people he was involved with this attempt to try to get my Twitter account banished for just posting clips of him and quoting him. And it's so like, that's You're trying to get my account taken down? That's like part of how we do our stuff here. Like anybody can post any clip they want of me and quote. I mean, they can even insult me if they want. I'm not going to try to get them taken down, but certainly not if they're just quoting me. And you know what? If all I'm doing, Rico, is cutting up a clip, not out of context, not unfairly, fairly, if I'm going in there and I cut a clip up and I quote it, and that's all I say when I put it up there, and the reaction is so bad, whose fault is that? I didn't go and record you in your bathroom talking to yourself or talking to a buddy of yours. Like, you said this shit on the air. Anybody can go pull it up on an audio or video version after the fact. I didn't secretly record you. I didn't bug your office. You said the shit. I posted it. Fair use by legal definition. If you don't like the reaction, do they have mirrors over there in those studios? I mean, it's not my fault. Don't blame me. I'm the victim here, if anything. I'm going to go full EJ Holland. What I do? I'm just sitting here trying to not want to pick my ears apart and rip off every orifice on my body because you just said something absurd like Detroit hasn't had a semblance of a champion, anything even resembling a champion, since the Going to Work Pistons, even though the Red Wings won a Stanley Cup. Like that's all I want to do is have Lenny there, preferably uninterrupted. I mean, that's the other thing. So it's really just like a content-based thing. Any like personal animosity came after he tried to get my account taken down, or certainly some people there did. I heard he was party to that. I'm not sure, but who knows? I can't definitively say that, but I know he's taken great umbrage with it by all accounts. And it's like, I get it. No one likes being called out, but I don't like having my show that I have loved since high school, and I'm not that young, muddied up. And that's why. So like I'm a big Valenti guy. And that's my issue with Rico. It's not some like, he stomped on my dog or something in a dog park one day and it's like, I'm going to get back at him. It's like, no, it's just someone has to be talking about this stuff. And he says these absurd things. And by the way, like the vast majority of the time, it's like fed to me. It's like, because when I do go back and listen, and I listen to certain segments, like I don't know who has time to like watch or listen to everything. But when I do, like I already have, if he said something crazy, like sent to me by somebody. So, it repudiates, not that it matters, but people do say like, oh, you spent all this time. Like I'll do the little edits and transitions. That takes like 48 seconds. But yeah, I'm not the only one that feels this way. So I think you have a responsibility when you are, I mean, let's face it, Rico was friends with Valenti, whatever. I mean, fine. That's welcome to life. But that's in large part why he got that, because he had a relationship with Valenti. Good for him. But having been given that position, even if you think, oh, he earned it, like you're sitting second chair, man. Valenti does most of the work anyway, like just from what we can sit and observe ourselves. Like you got to be prepared. There's no excuse for this stuff like every single day. So that's what that's about. I get asked that like constantly. No, like nobody like slept with anybody's wives or girlfriends or anything weird. Like there's nothing like that salacious. I just want my show back. I want my show back. And I'm fine with Rico there if he's going to bring it, if he's going to come prepared. I've never said fire Rico Beard, get rid of this guy. Like ever. All I'm asking is for a little show prep, man. And don't say that the city of Detroit hasn't even come close to anything resembling a championship when they've won a title in that time period, when they lost a Game 7 by 1 goal in that time period, when they've been to the World Series twice as a prohibitive favorite in that time period, when they were the favorites to win it all in 2013 and came a little bit short on the doorstep of the World Series. Like, this is not like, oh, you said it was 3 seasons in a row and it was 4. Like this is I don't know what town you're living in. Like, you don't even have to do this for a living. Like, my wife knows they've been to the World Series twice since the Pistons won. So anyway, that's what it's about. I want Valenti back. That's it. Moving on, Ben. Let's go. All right. Keep it friendly. If you had to pick one, is Chris Ilitch incompetent or indifferent? Tiggs or Tiggs 41? Okay. Is Chris Ilitch incompetent or indifferent? he's not a dumb guy. Chris Ilitch is smart. And, you can take issue with Mike Ilitch's choice and successor. He was the best choice, like, if you're keeping it in the family in that generation without, like, breaking off to a second cousin or something. Like, he's a smart guy. I for whatever you got to say, Chris Ilitch is smart. He's not just like a bumbling idiot son of a rich guy. Like, he's a smart guy. So I can't call him incompetent if I had to pick. I mean, that was what he asked, right? Wasn't it like if I had to pick one? I don't think he's totally indifferent. And, I presume what he means is indifferent to the success of the teams. Like, I don't think he's, by definition, indifferent to where does not care at all. But if I had to pick, you got to go with indifferent. I mean, how competent really do you even have to be to know that some of these things are dumb? I mean, I think Chris Ilitch is smart enough that if he was really engaged and like really cared, not just kind of cared, obviously he would rather win, but if he really cared and his blood boiled at their failures and every shortcoming, there's no way Avila lasts that long. There's no way. And I can't land in the incompetent bin. I can't. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's tone deaf. So if you value self-awareness and if you value, how the public perceives you and how you can help manipulate that even in your favor from a Machiavellian standpoint, there is like an argument for incompetence like in a certain area, but I'm way more in the like this guy just doesn't care all that much. It's just not that big of a deal to him. And, this is a guy who said he was very pleased with the progress of his team and then fired the guy who built that team like 47 days later, not even 2 months later. I don't think he suddenly became smart enough and saw how bad things were. I think it like dawned on him and he started to, take a little bit of a deeper look under the hood. So, tough one. That's a good question. You make me go in high school debate class. I could make the argument for incompetent, but I don't think it's the right one. I'm going with indifferent. All right, what do we got next here, Ben? Yeah, I guess I did have editorial discretion. Who would win a boxing match between Justin Thind and EJ Holland? I've never met EJ, but I mean, based on the pictures and just based on like, even if I had no idea what EJ looked like or what his build was, like Justin Thind's a tank, man. He's terrifying in a certain sense. I mean, thank God he's nice. Like if that guy were a dick, that'd be a problem. Look at this behemoth. I mean, I know Tyson Walker isn't like George Mirzon, but Aikens is like a good, healthy, like 6'3.5", 6'4". I don't know what he's listed at, but like I'm 6'4", and we were like, eye to eye. I mean, Aikens is a healthy 6'4", and I think Thind clears him there. So I don't know. If anybody saw Justin Thind at the Michigan State basketball game at Breslin, I don't know what he was wearing any other game, but he was sitting baseline courtside. Yeah. I mean, if that did it for me, it doesn't. But if it did, that's the way I would go. Because man, Justin Thind, I don't fuck with Justin Thind. He gets mad at me, I go run under the table and hide. Because Justin Thind, he'll break a table, man. Like if he were a mean guy, he's a big, buff, tall guy. So I don't mess with that guy. I hope he's not mad at me. So it's not even like an anti-Holland pick. It's like there's not many people I would take over Justin Thind unless they have like some formal martial arts training, and even then I'm not so sure. Okay, moving on. Very nice sophomoric question there from the crowd. Okay. Which incoming freshman has the biggest impact this year and which has the best overall career at MSU? I'm assuming this wasn't the actual Doc Holliday, but that was his name on Twitter. The first one is so hard, and we kind of already outlined the reasons why. Doc, the rotation, like, I don't know what the rotation is going to be. We know some of these guys are going to play. There's certainly big man minutes available, so that would maybe make you say Booker, but by all accounts, Booker, for as prodigiously talented as he is a little bit raw. It's going to take him some time, which is fine. A lot of guys are like that, and then they make a huge leap. Michigan State's seen that in different forms 1,000 times. So it's not to say he can't be great even in year one. I just don't think it's going to be month one. So I can't pick him, even though he's got like sort of the biggest theoretical path, because that's where the biggest hole on the team is. I guess I'm going to go the same answer for both, even though it's tough to say on that first one in particular. I feel more better about who's going to have the better career, but I'm a Jeremy Fears guy. And the only reticence on the first part of that is, again, this team's stacked. If Akins had left or Walker had left, and thank God they didn't, I'd feel better about that. So it's going to be tough. I don't know where these minutes are coming from, but that guy he's got a grown man's game mentality right now. And that's how you play on this team, a Tom Izzo team, as a freshman. There's not going to be a lot of, I can't imagine a ton of leeway for growth and maturity by fire with this team. It's just too deep. Doesn't mean to say, you're not going to play at all, but the majority of the minutes, I would think, among the young guys that are really going to be scrapping and fighting for it are going to go to the guys that are, making big boy plays and are a little bit more refined. And his game certainly looks more refined than average. I don't mean more than the other guys. I just mean more than the average freshman. Jeremy Fears' mentality is kind of senior killer already by all accounts. So I just think that profile as well. And for the same reason, I feel that way about his career. I mean, point guards usually do, guards just generally do pretty well here. So I'm going with Jeremy Fears for both. All right, moving on. What do we got? Okay. Yeah, this was via DM. I just realized I put his name on there. I hope you don't mind, Daniel, because this was a DM and not public. So sorry, Daniel. Why do you bother giving Michigan fans the satisfaction of calling them out? I touched on it in the EJ context earlier. I just think what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. I actually defended Jim Harbaugh multiple times in the past 6 months. The thing with the investigation coming out with the alleged assault there, and why didn't he do more? And then it turns out he legally couldn't mention this investigation going on. That would have actually been the wrong thing, legally. So now we're skewering Jim Harbaugh for not breaking the law. What's right is really what it comes down to. So it depends what dark O State News, Michigan type call out you're talking about. If it's the, Braylon Edwards saying that Michigan State fans are racist and they wanted Mel Tucker fired and they were calling him all sorts of racial slurs and they wanted him fired after one game, after he was here for 3 months. If it's something like that, the reason I quote unquote give it the time of day is because I think bad ideas should be ridiculed in the public square. It's really, it's that simple. And I think people that make absurd claims should have to back those up as a matter of general principle. That's not unique to the rivalry or any particular topic. If you're going to cast that big of an aspersion, kind of twice, the firing thing is already kind of ridiculous because the guy just got hired. Who here was actually saying fire Mel Tucker after one game in the COVID bogus offseason? But at least it's not a character attack, except maybe you're just saying we're historically impatient in East Lansing. We're impatient, but I don't think we're any worse than most. But the racist stuff that was, you can't prove a negative, so I can't say it was demonstrably false. There was no evidence that it was true. And all I didn't call Braylon a single name in that whole process or insult him personally. I don't think. It was very pragmatic. Where's your evidence of that? So if you're talking about that stuff, or the EJ stuff today, where you're telling people that someone got, it's insinuating that they got fired, you were a failure and now you're out of work. He basically said he got fired and is unemployed. That is something I'm calling that out because I have a few followers, and I think even if I didn't, anybody of good conscience should call that stuff out. Why is that? The whole platform thing, or why give them the time of day thing, I really, really reject on that kind of stuff. I think that stuff should be squashed firm, quickly, hard, and as vicious within the context and the box of that conversation and topic as possible. And I'll never apologize for that. Now, if you're talking about the silly shit, that's just fun. And that's honestly most of it for me. I'm not going to do the EJ thing. It's all in fun always. And no, there's times that there's legitimate grievances, and it's hey man, don't call Brandon Jordan a fraud when he's the Mozart of his industry. He's the guy. Like, come on. Like, you could go 3 rungs below him, and insulting whoever that guy is would be stupid. So, like, that kind of stuff, I'm not denying that I passionately hate just mistruths, like just people saying shit that's not true or making absurd claims or, that stuff. Like, that's stuff everybody should be calling that stuff out. Like, I don't know why it's like controversial. I'd see the argument of why give them the time of day, but like, come on, it's Braylon Edwards and EJ Holland. They have more followers than I do, Braylon by a large margin. It's not like I'm pulling up some guy with 2 followers. The other shit, like talking about Auburn's defensive rank in 2013, I mean, that's just kind of like, hey, man, we're talking sports here, like passionately. That's like more water cooler stuff. Like, I don't think that's like that big of a deal. You're giving them the time of day. So I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to, but I've gotten that question a million times. Like, oh, come on. I mean, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but like David Klein is a big, like, just come on, like, come on, leave him alone. Don't call attention to it. I understand that argument, but I will always, on the serious stuff, err on the side of debunk, clarify, squash, scrutinize. I get both sides. I'm just never going to be on the other one. Okay, moving on. What do you got? Like 3 left? Why do I have a problem with Michigan fans who didn't attend the school? Chuck D. Okay, Chuck Daly. I don't. And this is like the biggest misconception. I mean, if I were going to do like a common misconception link on our Spiro Avenue page, this would probably be like one of the top 2 or 3 listed. I don't have a problem with that at all. Some of my best friends are Michigan fans that didn't attend the school. My cousins, I think like the majority. I mean, I'm sorry, but the majority of Michigan fans didn't go. It's a statement of fact. And I'm friends with and know and family with a lot of Michigan fans. So by default, there's a lot that didn't go there. That does not bother me at all. Like not even a little bit. My only qualm, and this is when you see me bring it up, is when a Michigan fan who did not attend the school somehow makes an academic argument or quality of education argument or academic ranking argument, or even belittles like the intelligence of, and it can get a little bit gray. But, if you're going to get into that territory where it's like, oh, Michigan State people, we know they don't have a good mastery of the English language. First of all, even if you went to Michigan, that's a dumb thing to say. I mean, we only have the Harvard J school in the world. We're only the producers of the best J school in the world. I don't care what Syracuse says or Northwestern. But like it's stupid anyway. But of course, it's never really Michigan fans that say this. I mean, sometimes you get a couple of them, but like they can say it if they want, even if I think it's dumb. But they can say it. But if you didn't go there, you can't belittle a Michigan State person on the basis of their education. So people get really defensive about that stuff. And there's a lot of people. I can only speak for myself. Of course, I see all sorts of Michigan State people that have a more extreme position than I do, and I see their point too, to the extent like, look, can you even trash talk somebody? Like maybe we can have like the alums over here and the non-alums over here. Like I see like where they're coming from, where like it's not really the same, but I don't subscribe to that. Like I see like what they're getting at, but I don't like personally believe in that or practice that. It's more fun like if people are going to be, staying out of the belittling stuff and like at the water cooler. Like I'm more like of an inclusive guy. But you can't bring up the academics. Like you got leave that to, the Zach Linfields and, the people that actually went there. You don't get to just like piggyback. Like I'm going to become a fan of Harvard lacrosse or whatever sport they have at a decent level. I'm like, okay, I'm a big Harvard lacrosse fan and I'm going to start making Ivy League related condescending insults towards people. You don't get to just be like, oh yeah, like that team. Oh, good academic school, better than this guy's. Okay, I'm going to insult you on that basis. Like, no, I can't believe that's even an argument. I don't know why this is like a polarizing thing. To me, it's so self-evident, but what do I know? Okay, 2 left? Let's go. Another very commonly asked one in different forms. What was Steven Izzo like? I'll be honest. When I sort of arranged it or had the idea to arrange it, and thank you again to Malik Hall, who was like the point man on that one. I didn't really know. I had a little bit of a suspicion before I had talked to his teammates the preceding 6 months about what a great guy he was, and they sure seemed to mean it, but I had always carried with me, based on nothing. It's not based on anything I saw. It's just like, his dad's really rich. I grew up with a lot of these people. Like, there's, some good side. Like, they have a higher rate of being entitled and, not a great hang, so to speak. So, you do have that sort of natural curiosity. Like, does this kid gonna come in here like peacock and like he's hot shit or something? I didn't like expect that, but like it was on the table. And I mean, if you couldn't be a bigger opposite. Steven Izzo is, I mean, I don't know if anybody can top Kenneth Walker, who's like maybe Gandhi level nice. But I mean, Steven Izzo is a close second if that's the case. Like, he is awesome. Really down to earth guy, most unassuming guy ever. Just a great kid, man. Like, and I hope I know he watches something. I hope, yeah. I don't mean kid condescendingly, but dude, that guy's awesome. Like, he's just, you would never know. You would never know. Like, he's just, there's no arrogance about him or, oh, I'm an Izzo or something. He is just a great dude and really was a great guy to talk to, like, cameras off. And I think what you saw on camera, for those that watched that or any of the clips from it, like that's the guy. I was like, there's no cameras off. It was the same kind of thing. Just a great guy. And yeah, I said, shout out to Tom and Lupe on that one. I told Tom Izzo that at that Rocket golf swingy thing this week that I had the privilege of going to. I don't know anything about golf, but yeah, I had a chance to talk to the coach Tom Izzo for probably about a minute and a half or so, whatever it was. And yeah, I told him, I was like, great job by you guys. Like, he gave the credit to his wife and said, he drives his parents nuts like every kid does from time to time. But man, like, what a great job by them, because that kid's awesome. I love Steven Izzo. I can't wait to have him back, honestly. Like, that's great guy. Okay, last one. Kind of along the same lines, right? I think this is the one. Who was the coolest person we've ever had on our show? So like Ben and I were talking about what this person meant when they sent this, and it we didn't really get there. And the reason why we didn't attribute it is because it's our most, I think, honestly, like right up there with our most frequently asked questions. Like, hey, like, who's your favorite, or who's the best, or who's the coolest, or whatever. So like, if coolest is like in terms of fame, like if I were at a bar and I was like, trying to like brag to somebody to one up them or something, like, if it's a Michigan State bar, probably Kenneth Walker, I guess. I mean, that's a pretty good one. But like, Kenneth Walker is like a, sweetheart teddy bear. Like, he's not, I wouldn't say he's like cool in that way. Like, so, by that definition, it's really hard. I've had a lot of them. I honestly think Jalen Watch Jackson would be way, way up there. I think Jalen, it's close, man. I mean, Tyson Walker was really cool too. But I got to go with Jalen. I mean, Jalen is like really funny, like sneaky funny, and he's got all that like nice guy, like polite. First couple of times we hung out and did the painting thing here and all that stuff. Like he was more kind of like not on guard, but just P's and Q's manners and stuff. Like like not just like how younger people are. I'm not that much older than him, but just how people are in general. Like, once you know that guy for like 5 minutes, he's awesome. He is really, really funny. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if Ben wants to like weigh in at the end here. And Ben, you're welcome to chime in if your mic's even working back there. But like, I didn't really prep an answer for this. I tried to think about it for a little bit. But off the top of my head, you got to put him way, way up there. I would say like somewhere in there, Seth Ferranti is way up there. Seth Ferranti is a guy who was on the FBI's most wanted list and was a fugitive for 2 years and drove a car off a cliff, or pretended to, and faked his own death. And he was on here and talking about like mushrooms and, like getting high and stuff. Like, he wasn't getting high, but like, telling us these crazy ass stories. Like, but not in like a degenerate, like, he was telling us he's just a great storyteller, telling us stories of the past. And just, he's way up there. Ben, I don't know. Do you want to chime in on this? Is that a fair? I mean, you didn't meet Seth because you were out of town, but is Jalen like way, way up there for you?
Yeah. He's a great guy, real personable, good sense of humor. But I got to go with my guy, Scott Bernstein. The foremost reporter, best crime reporter in the U.S., I would say. And he had a fascinating episode that you guys should all check out. I forgot which episode it was, but what number it was. But you could search it up on the YouTube channel, talking about Jimmy Hoffa and also Isaiah Thomas having some relations with the Detroit mob, which was very, very interesting.
And I don't know how that's not, and I think I said something to that effect at the time. I don't know how that's not like something we all know. Like we know that. Because I pushed back on him a little bit. I was like, wait, how do I not know that? I know it was, I was like 3 years old, but I wasn't even alive, and I know all about the Patrick Ewing draft and the frozen envelope. Like I just feel like I don't disbelieve it. He's got the receipts on a lot of this stuff. I don't know how that's not like a huge part of the legacy in this town of like that team and that individual. There was allegations of point shaving, like at some point. That story was wild. Good call by you on the episode. I don't consider Scott like Fonzie cool. He's just like an awesome dude. But yeah, I'm never gonna push back on anything positive about Scott though. But yeah, that's a good one. That's an acceptable answer. Darian Harris is way up there. I should have put a little more thought into this because we get asked this all the time, and I don't have an answer for those people either, because there's so many. I only invite people that I find at least very interesting. We could compromise like a little bit early on the first 20 episodes just because we were trying to grow, but like now, we try to be more selective just because like more people are willing to come on, and I don't invite anybody not cool. I will say Brian Masalam's way up there too, though. Brian Masalam, in his 4% body fat and that olive skin, man, he's pretty suave. He's always got some nice coat on and got his own business in Birmingham. It's tough to beat out that guy too. But yeah, we got a couple Fonzies on our guest list. So yeah, well, maybe I'll sleep on that. I'll revisit that one again and we'll make a final pick. But yeah, I got to go with Jalen. So anyway, appreciate you guys checking us out in this sort of alternative Spiro Avenue show we wanted to do. I'm not going to bore you with the details of our Pistons show booking and all the fiasco there. We're good. We're in a good place with where our show's at. I am working on Graham Couch coming up pretty soon, hopefully. Graham, I'm going to start calling you out. We got to get you in, man. Graham has been like one of those guys we've been chasing for a while. But this was fun. Like this is it's not always going to be that contentious with me talking to myself, but I'm sorry, the EJ Holland thing, it had to be addressed. Everyone's asking me about it. I've been getting texts about this shit all day. I didn't go looking for that. I got roped in. I went into that room without even knowing what I was doing or talking about. But I didn't know EJ was even in there. But, I do think, as the final thought on this stuff generally, and if I'm going to do like the Jerry Springer final thought thing, rest in peace, Jerry, I think the loyalty people should have above anything else is just to what's true and what's right. And I don't think anybody out there is going to ever argue that it's the right thing to do to attack someone about things that are not true. And if you make the argument that I was reckless, I didn't know that they weren't true, which is still not great, but not quite as bad as just blatantly lying, but it's clarified and corrected, own it and apologize and go from there. I think it's disappointing but not surprising, if that makes sense, that though there were many Michigan fans that took issue with some of that stuff from EJ today, there were a good amount that were saying, oh, he cooked. Like he cooked the Justins. It's like, if your definition of cooked is making stuff up about somebody, take me out of it. Leave me out of it. You can say you cooked me. I don't care. I'm always more defensive of my friends than myself. That's fine. Take me out of it. If your definition of, he cooked Justin Rose was he lied about Justin Rose said, hey, man, what the fuck? And he put his hands up and said, I'm just trying to have fun. Like, if that's your idea of cooking, I think you got a gutter palate. Like, that's not a good chef. If that's cooking, you want to bring me into it, fine. And then I don't know what you were impressed that he said to me. It really, like, who couldn't just say, Why are you so mad, bro? Put your hands up. I mean, that's not an argument. It's a defense mechanism, and that's the routine from people that tend to operate this way. They'll take the piñata swing. They'll swing at the piñata that's just kind of standing there, hanging there. They'll do that, but like the second there's anything that can, punch back or scrutinize anything that they said or did, it's hands up. It is like the biggest cut and run mentality. So I would just say, whatever allegiance you have collegiately, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've deviated from perfection as much or more than the vast majority of people. But the one thing I'll say is I do try to be fair. And if I see Michigan State people saying crazy shit about Harbaugh, I will defend Jim Harbaugh. Like, there's a line here. And if there's something that anybody can look up and it's not true, and we know it's not true, and there's no ambiguity as to the truth of this, and even the person making the initial false statement is saying that it's not true to his knowledge, why do you have Joe Go Blue 32 defending it? Your horse in the race just told you he sort of cheated in this game of back and forth. Because if I can just make stuff up, I'm always going to win. I can say anything I want. I can say anything about you. There's no honor in that. And it's not just about EJ. A lot of people do that stuff. And admittedly, it's my biggest pet peeve is it's in my Twitter profile. Own your baggage. You shouldn't have done it in the first place because you didn't know. There's a difference between being misinformed, mistaken, and just saying shit. And his defense of Justin Rose, the Justin Rose argument, I should say, his defense of his Justin Rose misstatement was, well, I don't know. I looked him up and it said there's no employer listed. What kind of fact check is that? Like, again, I asked him, like, what does that tell you and tell your audience about your reporting? I Googled it and I couldn't find a listed employer on his LinkedIn, so the guy must be a failure and out of work and like forcibly put out of work, presumably, through implication. Own your shit. You get stuff wrong, you got to own it. And you want to Twitter search me, Darko State News. I got a million examples of kind of touche. You win this round, my bad. Concede the argument, whatever. For whatever flaws I have, that's not one of them. Unwillingness to admit I got something wrong is not one of them. I'm just, like EJ, we're just so rarely wrong, it's hard to admit sometimes. But I just think that was my big takeaway from today. And it becomes, in the criticism of me, is you're criticizing something that's, again, it's not to the Justin Rose level, but it's just not true. You're attacking the Justin Spiro, Darko State News argument on the grounds of, look how sensitive he is about Little Brother, when Little Brother wasn't even discussed or mentioned except in passing, in citing this whole routine that he plays and executes. I couldn't care less about it. In fact, I'm quite ambivalent towards the Little Brother thing. Thank you. I mean, gas has never been so cheap in the Spartan automobile than when that was at its peak. Gas was 20 cents a gallon for this program when that thing was really rolling, the Little Brother thing. Please bring it back. I got to find the Little Brother OPEC and get those prices back down because we need a little bit right now. But, that's the nature of the attack. And why wouldn't it be? Because Spartan, not Wolverine really, but may as well be in terms of function, and EJ. Why would you attack me on the, hey, he may have a point there about lying about somebody's presumably getting fired and being unemployed? You can't attack me on that. But the problem is that was my only point. That was the only thing I talked about the whole time, or 99% of it. That was the core thesis and supporting points 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. So you're not going to come at me at that, because who is going to really, with a straight face, sit back and listen to somebody say, oh, yeah, it's okay that you lied about that? I mean, EJ kind of did, but it's hard for anybody else to defend that. So we're going to go into the Little Brothers Shardy Tears thing, which is lazy. So my advice to anybody, and I not chastise, but try to nudge Michigan State people in this direction all the time, including like 2 days ago, have some level of loyalty to the truth and concept of objectivity. Doesn't mean be objective. I'm not objective. No one's objective. But we should be able to say someone saying somebody got fired or insinuating they got fired or they're a career failure when they left willingly or that they're unemployed when they're, in fact, an entrepreneur by choice and turned down a raise in the job that you said they failed at. Let me tell you, if you're a failure, they don't give you all those trophies and offer you more money. That is a pretty, like, as much of a scoreboard objective metric as you can get. The award, you can argue, maybe it's his aunt on the panel, like that, whatever. The money, no. Justin Rose was very successful and is very good in that lane. Anytime he wants to go back into it, if he does, he'll be great. He was great when he was in it. And to let a rivalry thing somehow excuse this stuff, like, no. Is it the end of the world? No. But if your best counter for a criticism or a scrutinizing of your content, if your best defense is, why do you care so much, bro? Sparty's all up in their feelings. And wow, that little brother thing really pissed you off, even though no one even mentioned that in this context. Like, if that's what you got a fourth thing too, a white flag that you're waving above your head. Because if you had anything, you would use that. But you know who does the whole why do you care so much thing? You know who does that? That's for losers. That's a loser's play. Go find me the presidential debate. Go find me someone that won their high school civics debate. There's a million of those on YouTube. Go find me the guy that won with that shit, that has ever won a court case. Find me the closing argument. Do you think a defense attorney is going to get in front of open court and say, hey, why is the prosecution so mad, bro? What do you think? No. And if the defense attorney is saying that, that guy's going straight to the electric chair. They might electrocute that guy for shoplifting if the attorney brings that shit to the table. So you can make fun of people. Why do you care so much that I'm lying about you? Like, okay, you know what? I do. And I don't care that you think it's weird that I care. Little brother thing, no, I don't care. And I do think it's weird that some people are so sensitive about that. Please, give me more. I want those Michigan State people to be quiet, honestly. Like, don't discourage them. Let them rock here. Let them do their thing. But, I hate the whole, like, be better thing. It's so, like, smug and very EJ Hollandy. So I won't order anyone to be better. But, can we please, like, try to be better? Maybe. If you can't stand by the objective truth and people not being lied about, you are part of the problem. Even if you just say, you're here to have fun. I don't have fun. Why are these Spartan fans so mad? Not a fan of that stuff. And I'm sorry, like, if you're a follower of mine that didn't like that and you're in the minority, I haven't really heard that much of that. But if you are, I apologize, but it's going to keep happening. I apologize that you're sad not for doing it, because I'm sorry. You don't get to do that stuff. And people are not weird or sensitive, to a alarming degree or anything out of the ordinary if they find that objectionable. So I am happy to hear EJ Holland is nearing the finish line of this stuff. And the Justin Thin stuff is sitting there splitting atoms at work and he's getting shit on. It's like, how is this guy a reporter? Like, I'm not a reporter. I mean, I do some reporting in the context of what we do, but like, I don't get that. I don't, like, who is that guy's boss? I don't mean it in like a let's get him canceled thing. Like, I'm actually just like fascinated because it's not like they don't know what's going on. So it's in full view. So clearly they don't give a shit. It's not about like, let's get the guy fired. I'm like an anti that, like, big time. I'm not a big cancel culture guy, if you want to use that cliche. But man, can we get like EJ and or his boss in here? Whoever that is, I have no idea who it is. Who's EJ's boss? Someone DM me who's EJ's boss. I'm not gonna write him some screenshotted email with this shit. That's not what it's about. I want to bring him in. Because I'm fascinated for that conversation. Like, what is the editorial standard there? Like, is there an editor on the payroll? I'm honestly fascinated. I'm befuddled by that one. You want to stump me? Ask me that question. Spiro Avenue Show, Fireside Chat will very, very rarely be this passionate in this direction. I think it'll be more of the, Jeremy Fears is awesome type shit, and we love Steven Izzo. But that was a big thing today, and that's what you guys were asking me about and needed to address it. Those that sent in questions, a lot of you are watching live. I saw a couple of you popping in there. Get with me. I'm going to try to get with you guys proactively, but if I forget or whatever, hit me up, and we'll get you lined up with whatever your prize was. We got some tickets and stuff to give away. Spiro Avenue Show, Ben, appreciate you. You're the man. Eric, probably asleep by now. We were late tonight. Appreciate you as well. Appreciate everyone out there. Love you guys. Go Green. Spiro Avenue Show, Fireside Chat. See you next time.